Hello, peoples of the internet. Today I will be playing automation and attempting to build a vehicle with one target. Stupid levels of economy. Now, I'm thinking we want this kind of body. Yes, it's not ideal for visibility, especially with those bits sticking up on the side. However, it does look very aerodynamic. If we look in the past 10 years, I think we actually want something small if possible, but these don't look particularly great for coefficient of drag. I mean, it could be the last 20 years, because we're still talking 1997 then, and cars weren't particularly horrible in the 1997. Anyway, we have got various saloon bodies and stuff. The one I had before looked very, very streamlined, though. And it also had wheel covers, so I want that one, I think, if I can just somehow work out where it was. All years. There we go. We got the almighty wheel covers. I think we want a 3-door, less places for air to get caught in. And should we have that? I'm not quite so sure how this works. I know we need an air cut-off point of some kind. I think it's just similar to stock. How was it from standard? Honestly, I think I'm going to just trust this. Or should I? No, move that forwards. That way it's a little more curved for the air. I'm no aerodynamics expert, you've probably worked that out by now. But we do want as much slope as possible. Thus the air doesn't have to go through as much force to try and get where it wants to go to. That should work. Maybe raise it a little. No, it won't let me. Could bring that back perhaps a little. Maybe up. No. And that should function. Now we don't need to bring that back. Now for driveline, I'm not sure. I'm thinking front wheel drive. Seems a little odd with quite tight space there though. So I'm really not too sure. I'm guessing if we want economy, rear engine, rear drive is probably the best because the car can sink backwards and there should just be no resistance at all. Now if we can bring these in as well. No, I don't think we can. But if we could do that, it gives it less area to press against. And that could help. I don't like how they stick out. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be now. I'm just imagining it. I'm imagining the things about the body. It's okay. Now, as I said, we have one target. And that is... economy. That is it. I just remembered eventually. Now we can go with mid-engine. That's good. So that should be good for power delivery. We want transverse, I think. And the suspension. We don't want push rod. It's too track orientated. We want this thing to float over bumps. And I think the best chance we've got of that is double wishbone all round. Push rod's great as a track suspension. And I have just stuck a space frame on this. We'll have to see about the weight. Because it says... the unitary is very heavy as well, so if this is lighter, I'll probably use it. If it's heavier, I probably won't, but we'll have to come back to that and see. Whichever technology's lightest seems like, to me at least, it's going to be the best for economy. Now, we want carbon fibre. As a matter of fact, we can get carbon fibre on this. I suspect that is the lightest. Again, I'll have to come back to it, but I'm just... pretty sure that's going to be as light as you can get, just due to carbon fibre being fairly stiff and light for what it is. Now, I'm hoping I can make it reasonably priced as well, but that is not the priority. The priority is economy. I'm not going to go sticking quality up to 15 on the engine just to make a better engine, but I may put it up quite a bit. Maybe up +3 or something. It's still going to be a road car, just a very, very economy-orientated one. Although it's not a hybrid, because we can't get hybrids in this game, which is slightly upsetting, I would say. Now, what do we want for the grille? We have some prime grille area here, so... yeah, no doubt I'm going to put a grille there, of sorts. Although I may have to end up changing this later. I'm not going to go full into designing it, because... being so aerodynamically orientated as it is, these things can all change quite a bit by the time we actually finish the vehicle. Well, it's happy at least. At least we know that now. Now, if we look into the engine, we're going to build a inline 4, I think. Or should we build a small V6? No, we're going to go with an inline 4 turbo. It's going to be made of very light materials. Engineering time, it didn't say, did it? Extremely high. Again, I'm trying to keep this reasonable, so I think just look at how they compare. Yeah, either's very light, but I'll use ALSI due to its lower engineering time. You know, magnesium is slightly lighter, but we're not going that mad. We can still afford ALSI, but we're not going too mad as to not afford anything. Now, the header. No doubt about this, it needs to be advanced. We're not going to get away with direct acting overhead cam or pushrod. It just won't work for our focus. So I think what we want is dual overhead cam. We could probably get away with 2 valves per cylinder, actually, and it doesn't fit in very well. That's a shame. 5 valves per cylinder. It's 2017. The technology's been invented now. It's not like it's anything too mad. Although with modern overhead valve, I doubt that is good for economy. But if it is, if that does give us very good economy, I'll come back to it. And again, we'll go with an ALSI head. Engineering time is high, is it? Yeah, high on both of them. That makes sense. So I'll fill in the rest of this and I'll return when I have done that. Okay, so I've designed the engine in a slightly different way to what I was expecting to design it in. It's not a turbo, is what I mean. And it's a 1.3 litre engine because it really does not like fitting in the car. Which seems strange, but that's just the way things are. I'll have to make the best of it that I can. Now, we are making tortoise levels of power, which isn't usually a good thing. But in this particular case, it is. Surprisingly, I was able to get decent economy, 455, while maintaining decent power. Thanks to, I think, largely all the technology. I've even gone with a sports intake because, yeah, it only seems to improve things. It does make it more expensive to service, but that's okay, I think, because, you know, it's an expensive car. It's made of carbon fibre. It's never going to be cheap. Well, I'll let it rev for you in its current state, actually. I have just remembered, though, we have to do this first, just to make sure it's working fine. Quite a reliable engine, actually, this. 75, probably one of my most reliable engines I've built. Anyway, test. There we go. It has a surprisingly good sound, actually. And it's surprisingly low-end torque, actually. I forgot to mention that before as well. Torque comes along at 2,800, and it's a very nice torque curve. So even if the power isn't exactly world-beating, there is the torque that's very, very solid. Now, we want as many gears as possible, I would say. Mainly high-end gears. It seems we can only go with 7 for some reason. Ah, automatic, there we go. That's the 9 speed, I remember. Yeah, it'll probably be set up something like this for crazy high-end gearing. That's just how you would do it, typically, to make sure you can keep it in the lower RPMs. Especially important when it's not a turbo. The low RPMs will actually be usable. Now, do we want a differential? We want the power to get down to the road, basically, with the minimal struggle possible. So I'm saying extremely electric LSD, because that should keep the tyres in contact with the road quite well, combined with the suspension, and it should keep them accelerating quite nicely. The tyres we do want to be narrow, though. 175 should do the trick. For now. It is rear-wheel drive, so we don't want to make them too narrow. And we'll go with hard, long-life tyres, should be all we need. Carbon fibre wheels. A lot of carbon fibre in this to keep it light. Which wheel should we go with? You know what, I'm thinking we want to go smaller. Yeah, 15s actually work quite well if I just go over standard wheels. Where were they? No, I've lost them. They should do. We actually want more sidewall, though, to absorb bumps. So, again, we can put the power down to the road. Because if there's not quite the ability to just accept the odd walk and stone within the tyres and the suspension, then the vehicle will probably not quite use the engine as effectively. Yeah, my mind's trying to do a lot of work now, all in all. The brakes, we actually want small brakes. I would say 2-piston, 215mm on the front, and some basic 180mm on the rear. I'm making these brakes small because, well, firstly, it's not a very powerful car, but also we don't want to add too much weight to it. We want to keep this as light as realistically possible. Now, the under tray we want fully clad, but not downforce. Downforce slows the car down, but more importantly, reduces the miles per gallon. I think we want cooling flaps as well. That should be good. That means flaps can close when the air isn't needed, and that should help us get just the right amount of power to the engine, or should I say air. We need a bit more. This engine is surprisingly efficient actually for air, so that's good. It is mid-engined, I should remember that. But as I said, I can change this stuff. That's why I didn't want to go too mad with it, because if I'm going to change it, why should I make anything permanent? Now, because it needs so little cooling, all I should need is just a pair of vents, which like these ones, that just sit on the side. Hopefully they're wheel vents. Maybe they're not, I don't know. But they just need to sit on the side and give the engine airflow. Unfortunately, those ones do look like fake ones. That'll do the trick for now. So if we go to the cooling stage, we'll see we have far too much cooling here. But it's a start. We'll see where we go from here. We can fit 5 seats in here, so we will. I know the focus is on miles per gallon, but we do want it to be somewhat usable. I mean, how are we supposed to sell it if it's a completely useless vehicle other than 2 people? Maybe if it was small and sporty, but it isn't small and sporty. So, we're going to make it comfortable at least. We're going to make it the most economical, comfortable car I think we can make. Also, I could probably move those wheels outwards. And I will probably do it a bit in the future, but not right now. If we go for the interior, we want a basic interior. We want infotainment, but only basic infotainment. Again, this is all tying into the weight. We shouldn't need power steering if all my weight saving is doing its job. Again, we'll go with basic safety. Enough to make sure we can sell it, but we're not going crazy. And we'll go with anti-lock brakes. I think that's all we need, really. We shouldn't need any of the other assists. It's not powerful enough. Now, the suspension. We want some... Do we want some active? It depends on the weight. If we look at active comfort, it's not particularly hugely light. We want something that's very comfortable, though. Yeah, 20 kilos isn't that ridiculous. Can only go with passive sway bars, disappointingly. But I think that's not the worst part of it all. So active comfort should hopefully keep the wheels in contact with the ground, as we're hoping. It weighs 844 kilograms, so I was correct about not needing power steering. A car of this weight shouldn't. It's not the lightest in the world, but hey, it is with a couple of retro sports cars, so if I can get the power up here... And look at that miles per gallon, 67.8. Everything together is working now. That is very good. If I can get it over 70, I will be very impressed with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a bunch of changes and then I'll return when I've done them. Okay, so I have a madly efficient engine now. It is a 1.7 litre engine. What I've done here is I've just moved the stroke right up as high as it will go. And that's given me surprisingly good economy, actually. And the thing does rev without blowing itself up, which surprised me, but I'm not complaining. It gives me great economy. You'll see a lot of the engine is the same here, but, I've worked on it to get 364 for economy. That is a very good score. I think it's about the best I came up with. Maybe I built a 1.6 litre or a 2 litre with better results ages ago, but that's about as good as you're going to get, and the power at 180 horsepower is very good. The one thing I've not tried is the reduction of cost. No, I probably don't want to do that. Yeah, I mess it up. It works with high-end components though, so we'll leave them in. You see all the settings I'm using and stuff. It's not running much boost. Again, the turbo, its only real purpose I can think of is to restrict the airflow through the engine. But hey, it works at that and it gives me economy, so that's what I'm using it for. I know it's hideously inefficient and I could probably build a better engine in my sleep if I desperately wanted to, but then it's working, so I can't complain. We've got a 2.5 inch exhaust, quite large, but you'll see if I reduce that. Well, not much happens actually, but yeah, that seems to be the optimal size. Yeah, I just thought I saw better economy there, but I didn't. It's an illusion, or is it? It does reduce the power, so you hopefully get the idea of that. You have to balance it out. That's about the best balance I could come up with. So I'll let you hear this state of the engine and see how it goes. Now, I'll also mention now the torque. Power and torque are very impressive, as are the economy. They both come out of a lag around 2000 RPM, so they shouldn't provide much trouble since it revs over 7000. And that's overall quite good. Reliability is good. The torque should move this thing though, it should really move it. Last time I checked, it was good. Wow, 0 to 60 in 8.3 seconds. That is no doubt helped by the weight, but this is quick. I mean, it at least goes some way to justifying why it's so expensive. We do have quite long gears. They are manual now. I tried the automatic. It's just not the same for economy. You'll see there. It's slightly exaggerated because of the fine adjustments and everything, but it just isn't quite as good as this for the overall economy. And I'm pretty sure, actually, it's gone higher for miles per gallon than it was when I just checked before. I could have got it even higher if I didn't just end up being stupid and saying, hey, this looks cool, let's do it. I've made the tyres wider, I've made the wheels bigger, and I've made the front track wider. The front track had to be done, to be honest, because if we look back, we'll see it's capable of 173 miles per hour, supposedly. Admittedly, the lift would get mad by that point, but we don't want a really narrow track at those kinds of speeds, because it will just tip over and roll even more easily. The vents on the side, they're made slightly larger because the turbo, it needs more cooling than it did before. Brakes are all the same because, it's not a performance car. I've not had to beefy them up or anything, and I need more cooling now. This is a disappointing element of going with a larger engine, I guess. I'll have to adjust that before I take it around the track, but I can move on for now. The interior and everything is still the same. We can set this up again because the engine's a different weight. And that should be it. We're still under 900 kilos for a 5-seater sports car, dare I say it. It might not seem like a sports car, but the acceleration is definitely that of a sports car. I might have forgot to mention, but the differential wasn't needed, so I just reduced that to a standard one. And this is really impressive, I think, for what it provides in terms of overall speed and in terms of economy. I can't think of another vehicle I've built that matches it. The disadvantage is the visibility is going to be absolutely horrendous in this compared to my other cars. Also, my other cars I would rather own than this. Even if it does have crazy economy, it's such a thing to behold, but it's only a thing to behold. It's not something you really desire to own, other than the fact that it's carbon fibre and everything, but then it's just a glorified appliance as opposed to my other vehicles which have been truly special in certain cases. Anyway, I've got to move on now to fix the car, so I'll do that. Okay, so I've taken it around the track and made my final changes. Now, I'm going to show you after the time has been thought over, which is a 2-minute 35.13, puts it between Monster and his kids and the Tortoise Turbo. It's a decent enough time. I mean, it's with the kind of sporty cars on the leaderboard. It's not supercar level or really, really high-end hot hatchback level, but we are doing quite well, I feel, for what's an economy car with a slight bit of sportiness added into it. Now, the changes I'm going to talk you through, you'll see down here, it's a little heavier than before, and it only gets 80.1 miles per gallon. The main reason for that is, as I'll show you, it's got a sport interior. I just felt a standard or basic interior wouldn't work too well, since you are paying quite an amount of money for this, so if you are only getting a basic interior, it's a bit of a letdown. And I do want it to be over 80 miles per gallon, so I could, I guess, improve the quality. It says lower weight, so I could probably get away with that. Again, lower weight there and there. So that should help us. I was just fearing I would add weight, and yes I have. Regardless of what it says, I've actually added weight to the car. Unless, does that add weight? No. How about just a higher quality interior? No, the problem with that is, though, as I say, improving the quality does increase the weight of the vehicle, and that pushes it below 80 miles per gallon, which is the main reason you buy it. And we are looking at an expensive vehicle here. $60,000 for... Is it worth that? I think we could charge $63,000, and even with a small profit margin, the price starts flying up. It's just the parts are expensive. Also, I forgot to mention last time, but it is on push-rod suspension now. That seemed to have a positive effect on the miles per gallon, so that's why I did it. I could give it 4 seats, I guess. I think what I'll do is I'll give it 4 seats and then increase the interior quality, so hopefully they should cancel each other out if all is going well. Set up that for comfort again. I have taken it around the test track already, so it's a bit too late to adjust this stuff, but the weight is lower now. Yes, that's good. We've got what we wanted. Can probably put other bits higher quality as well. So I think we want the infotainment and driver assist to be slightly higher quality, because again, the things you feel and touch mainly, they want to be high quality. So it's under 900 kilos now, and we've lost a set of seats at the rear, which should bring the weight balance forwards. The weight balance was dreadful. Yeah, it still is, but what can you expect? I mean, the engine is the heavy element here, and I can't go putting all-wheel drive on or anything of a nature to move the weight forwards. It just won't work. It'll add too much weight. But at least now, I know that I've perhaps made it more justifiable. Yeah, I'll have to accept less profit to keep under $65,000, I think. You know, it makes me think of a really underpowered SBR4 out of BeamNG. Like, one of the more premium models, obviously. But it just makes me think of an underpowered version of that vehicle, and that's a shame. I feel this could have been so much that it isn't. But then at the same time, how else was I supposed to make it look good? Seat 4 people in comfort, with a high quality interior, keep it light enough to get the incredible miles per gallon it gets, and have decent track performance all in one car. I mean, it's hard to see how else I could build a car like this. And the time is really impressive, I think, for an economy-orientated car. It's just the price range is not economy-orientated, and if you can afford this car, you can probably afford, I don't know, an actual sports car. I guess ultimately, though, it depends on your preferences. If you like carbon fibre and stuff, maybe you would buy this instead of a Jaguar XJ, for example, just because, you prefer having all the technology underneath it, and you're never going to be able to use a speed on wheel roads. That's all I can think of. It's just more accessible speed you can get out of this. But anyway, I have to leave you with a car that's slightly more disappointing, actually, than I was hoping for. And yeah, the miles per gallon is okay. I say that, it's 80 miles per gallon. It's very, very good, but it could be capable of about 85 if only I didn't do stupid decisions in certain places. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with a shot of the underneath, as always, and say, I need to name it. Almost forgot that I need to name the vehicle. Okay, so here we have the vehicle named and all, and it's called Benevolent Johnson because, well, it's a benevolent vehicle that's peaceful and loves the environment, and it's called Johnson because I decided that was a suitable name for some weird reason. The variant is called Airflow because, well, look at how aerodynamic it is. Great airflow in all, kids. Yeah. There's the massive exhaust to let all our emissions out. And it's called 1.7 Ecotech. Totally not a GM name with just a H on the end. There's the R suspension. The engine just squeezed in there by some miracle. And the variant is called non-speed because that's how it's not designed for speed. The engine is a 1.7, we'll see 1650cc there. It's not exactly a high 1.7, it's actually about as low as you can get a 1.7, but then it does round up that way, so that's why it's classified as a 1.7 and not a 1.6. It may be classified as a 1.65 though in certain places. Wait, why is there a driveline part? Maybe it's just stiffness, but it seems a little odd having that there when it's just not needed because it's so rear engine, the power just goes through the back of the vehicle. Anyway, we've got that. That's all we've got left. Still, I'm going to build a 90 mile per gallon version of this vehicle eventually. But until that time, we've just got the standard variant. So I'll leave you with a beautiful picture of my channel coloured engine and I'll say goodbye until another day.